Well, hey, good morning, guys. Dunks here for another Wake Up Well. Two accounts really similar today. The first one, an Old Testament, the second, a new. First is this, 2 Kings chapter 4, verses 42 to 44. A man came from Baal Shalisha, bringing Elisha 20 loaves of barley bread baked from the first ripe corn, along with some ears of new corn. Give it to the people to eat, Elisha said. How can I set this before 100 men? 20 loaves for 100 men. But Elisha answered, give it to the people to eat, for this is what Yahweh says. They will eat and have some left over. Then he set it before them, and they ate and had some left over, according to the word of the Lord. A really similar account we see with Jesus in Matthew chapter 14, verses 13 to 21. Jesus heard what had happened to John the Baptist being beheaded. He withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. So when Jesus landed and saw the large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed those who were ill. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, Jesus, this is a remote place and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so that they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food. Practical suggestion. Jesus replies, however, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. But we have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. The maths doesn't add up. Bring them here to me, Jesus said. He told the people to sit down on the grass, taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men. Besides women and children. 2 accounts, Old Testament and New Testament. A small amount of food being multiplied miraculously by God to feed many more people than it should have been possible for in the natural. Friends, these aren't just things that happened in the past. I've seen this happen with my own eyes. There's a number of times when I used to be out in Mozambique where we'd go into a village amongst some of the poorest people. We take some food and we take Jesus within us to go and share him, but to share practically as well. And the number of times we'd look at the pot of spaghetti and we'd think, my goodness, this is never going to feed the number of people who have turned up. And yet, again and again, the Lord would miraculously just expand the food, that the food wouldn't disappear even though we kept handing it out. One wise lady who ran the ministry out there would often say to us, when there's more people than you think there's food for, don't look at the food and what little you think you have. Look at the person in front of you and what God is wanting to do in them. And every time we did that, the food would just multiply. It was miraculous. One of the things I love with Jesus doing miracles in the New Testament, in the Gospels, very often there was 2 things going on. One, he was meeting the very real needs of the people in front of them. He had compassion, it said in this example, on the crowds. And so he wanted them to have food because they'd come from far away and he wanted to provide for their needs. But in doing so, he shows us this spiritual principle of what happens in the kingdom of God, in the kingdom of heaven. That God takes the little of what we have, and when we choose to give the little that we have for his purposes, for his name, for his glory, he will always expand it. As a church family, we've been looking at the kingdom of heaven in this season. The kingdom of heaven is like ... This last Sunday, we just looked at the kingdom of heaven being like yeast in a batch of dough, a small amount of yeast, and it grows all the way through, or a tiny mustard seed and it grows into this huge tree. It doesn't matter whether you feel like you have lots or little. It doesn't matter whether you feel like you're wealthy financially or not. It doesn't matter whether you feel like you're really clever. It doesn't matter whether you feel like you're really gifted or not. Don't compare yourself to other people. You don't have to be something that God hasn't made you to be in order to be his disciple and to be used for the kingdom of heaven. All you have to do is to say, I have so little and I see the need in front of me is far greater than anything I could ever do. But Jesus says, just give the little, give the 5 loaves, give the 2 fish that you have and watch me multiply. I've seen it happen in my life again and again, where I've given financially and I don't have much, but I've chosen to give. I've seen it multiplied for the purposes of Jesus' kingdom, where I'm really slow at many things in life. I can't do things as quickly as many people, whether it's, washing up. I was always the last kid out of the changing room, or whether it's, writing, I'm really slow at. But I found when I choose to just give what I have and what I can, God will miraculously multiply what I'm able to do to reach a far greater number of people and impact a far greater number of people. I bless you today to be released from feeling like you have to be something that you're not. Simply be the person that God has created you to be, knowing that there is always enough in Him. So when you see need in front of you that God has given you sight to see in the people around you, just give the little that you have and know that God will multiply it and the kingdom will come. I bless you today to know the more and the fact that there's always enough and always more of Jesus in you. Bless you.